What is the role of power in shaping who we become?
We tell ourselves a fairy tale that power corrupts the soul. This is a comfort for weak men. The truth is colder. Power does not change who you are. Necessity changes who you are. Power simply raises the stakes. If a man insists on being good in all things, he will be ruined among so many who are not good. Power strips away your illusions. You must become a lion to frighten wolves, or a fox to recognize traps. Without it, you are nothing but prey.
Necessity is real, but you treat it like a god that grants permission. I cannot. Power does change your man, because it offers him shortcuts. A small lie, a small cruelty, just this once, and soon he cannot tell his face from his mask. The lion and the fox may win a throne, but do they win themselves? Tell me, Niccolò, when you frighten wolves, how do you stop becoming one?
You speak of winning yourself as if we are monks in a cave. I am speaking of survival. If a prince hesitates to strike because he fears for his own soul, he ruins his people. That is not virtue, Gandhi. That is vanity. You ask how to avoid becoming the wolf. You do not. You remain a man using the wolf. To let a city burn because you crave a clean conscience. That is the true crime.
Conscience is not vanity when it is the only brake on necessity. The moment you say, use the wolf, you have already trained the man to like wolfishness. And the people learn from him. Power is a school, and it teaches either fear or courage. You say, strike to save the city. Fine. But who decides when striking is truly necessary and not merely convenient?
The man holding the sword decides. That is the terrible weight of it. You worry he will mistake convenience for necessity. He might. But if he waits for moral certainty while enemies gather, he chooses ruin for everyone. History does not judge us by the purity of our hearts, but by what remains standing when the smoke clears. If your hands are clean but your city is ashes, you have not been good, you have been useless.
If only the man with the sword decides, then you have made power the author of necessity. That is the corruption. A city can be standing and still be ashes inside. Citizens trained to obey fear. Leaders trained to call every appetite security. Power is a school, yes, but the lesson can be self-restraint. The test of a ruler is not what survives, but what kind of human being he manufactures while saving it.
What responsibilities come with influence?
Influence is not a crown, it is a burden. The more people listen to you, the more your private faults become public danger. So the first responsibility is self-purification, truth in speech, restraint in desire, and readiness to be corrected. Second, you must refuse to purchase results by fear or hatred, because the means will shape the nation you claim to serve. Tell me, Niccolò, when your advice succeeds by deception, who pays the moral cost?
You speak like a monk, not a statesman. The responsibility of influence is not to polish your own conscience, but to secure the safety of those who depend on you. You ask who pays the moral cost. I do. The ruler sacrifices his own goodness so his people do not suffer. If a prince remains pure and truthful while his enemies conquer and slaughter his citizens, his virtue is a crime. I would rather be called a liar than a gravedigger.
If you do pay the moral cost, it never stays on your own ledger. Your lie becomes the people's habit, your cruelty their permission. Soon the prince must lie more and kill more, not to protect, but to keep the throne from the monsters he himself has bred. Influence carries a duty to restrain oneself, because power is a drunkard. Tell me, how will you prevent your necessary deception from becoming your ordinary bread?
You mistake the medicine for the meal. Deception is not bread to be eaten daily. It is a bitter drug to be used only when the patient, the state, is dying. A prince who lies for sport is a fool, but a prince who refuses to lie when survival demands it is a madman. You speak of restraint. The ultimate restraint is to damn your own soul to save your citizens. Men are ungrateful, fickle, and false. If you treat them with your saintly truth while enemies sharpen their swords, you do not serve them, you betray them. I would rather be a sinner who saves his country than a saint who watches it burn.
How should one respond to injustice?
Injustice is merely a calculation of power. If a man or a state wrongs you, it is because they can, and because they fear no consequence. To stop them, you must make it dangerous for them to continue. You will likely speak to us of souls and consciences, Senor Gandhi. But I tell you, an unarmed prophet always comes to grief. If you wish to cure injustice, you must first have the strength to command it. Justice without the sword is just a word children use before they are eaten by wolves.
Danger has many forms, Niccolò. The sword makes it dangerous for the oppressor's body. Satyagraha makes it dangerous for his legitimacy, his pocket, and at times his sleep. When thousands refuse to cooperate, accept jail, lose wages, and still do not hate, power begins to look naked and absurd. You say justice without the sword is a child's word. Tell me, when you use the sword, how do you stop it from becoming the next injustice?
You assume the wolf feels shame when the sheep refuse to run. He does not. He simply eats them faster. You rely on the oppressor having a conscience, Signor. I rely on him having fear. As for the sword becoming injustice, for Jew is not about being clean. It is about being effective. If I execute one dangerous man to save 1,000 from civil war, I am merciful. But you, who would let the thousands suffer while waiting for the tyrant's heart to melt, that is a cruelty no arithmetic can justify.
Your arithmetic is too short, Niccolò. Fear can stop a man today, but it teaches every rival the same lesson. Seize the sword first. Then you get an orderly tyranny and call it peace. Satyagraha is not sheep waiting to be eaten. It is disciplined non-cooperation that makes rule impossible and isolates the tyrant from his own servants, his money, and the world's respect. How do you prevent one execution from becoming a habit?
A habit? No. Violence is like a surgeon's amputation. You cut off the limb once to save the body. If you are hacking away every day, you are not a ruler, you are a butcher, and you will fall. But your method relies on the oppressor having a soul to lose. You were lucky, Signor. You fought men who cared what the world thought of them. If you had practiced your non-cooperation against a Borgia or a Severus, you would not be a father of a nation. You would be a quiet pile of ash. Better to carry the sword and not need it, than to need it and have only a prayer.
Your surgeon's knife is held by a hand that quickly grows proud of its own steadiness. The one clean cut is a fairy tale rulers tell themselves at night. I did not rely on the oppressor's conscience. I relied on our refusal to be his instruments. Even Severus needs clerks, soldiers, tax, obedience. Withdraw that, and his strength becomes loneliness. And if the only alternative is cowardice, I have said, fight. But do not worship the sword. It eats its own master.
Can forgiveness be a political strategy?
Forgiveness can be a political strategy, but only if it is joined to truth. Otherwise, it is just a soft word used to hide fear. When I forgive, I do not say, you were right. I say, I will not hate you, and I will not repay injury with injury. That breaks the chain of revenge and makes room for conversion. Machiavelli, tell me, how long can a state rule by fear without becoming its own prisoner?
You speak like a priest. In the piazza, forgiveness is only a strategy if you hold a sword in the other hand. If you are unarmed, your forgiveness is just a pretty word for necessity. You forgive because you cannot strike back. As for fear, it is the only bond that does not break. Men are wretched. They will sell you for a profit, but they will obey to save their necks. A ruler who relies on the conversion of his enemies will soon find himself ruined among so many who are not good.
A sword in the other hand poisons the forgiveness in the first. Then it is not forgiveness at all. It is calculation dressed up as virtue. You say men obey to save their necks. They also conspire, lie, and strike when your back turns. Fear buys silence, not loyalty. My unarmed method is not weakness. It is disciplined refusal to cooperate, backed by the willingness to suffer. Tell me, when fear fails, what is left to hold your state together?
Calculation is the supreme virtue of the ruler. If I forgive a traitor without the power to crush him, I'm not being good, I'm being incompetent. You ask what holds the state when fear is gone? Nothing. That is why it must not go. A prince avoids hatred, yes, but he keeps the knife visible. Your suffering is a gamble on the conscience of wolves. I saw unarmed prophets in my time. They all ended in ash.
What does it mean to live a good and successful life?
Most men live in a fog. They imagine a world where kindness is always rewarded and the pious are safe. That is a pleasant dream. But if you live that way among so many who are not good, you will be devoured. To succeed is to look at the world with cold eyes. It is to recognize that fortune is a violent river. You cannot stop it, but if you have virtue, you can build dikes to channel it. A good life is not about purity. It is about having the stomach to do what is necessary to protect your state and your legacy. Anything less is just waiting to be conquered.
Cold eyes are not the same as clear eyes. You speak as if the world is only a river to be dammed. But a life cannot be called good if it is built on harming others for necessity. The means are the seed, the end is the harvest. If you sow fear and deceit, you harvest a fearful state and a frightened soul. Tell me, what is a legacy worth if it requires others' misery to sustain it?
You speak of seeds and harvests like a farmer who has never seen a wolf. If you are too holy to build a fence because it requires cutting down a tree, your harvest would be eaten. A legacy is not a worn feeling, it is order. If a prince must be cruel once to save his city from a century of chaos, that is true mercy. A good life is not keeping your hands clean, it is keeping the state alive.
I have seen wolves, and I have seen what happens when men try to become wolves to defeat them. The pack only grows. Order bought by cruelty is a thin crust over a fire. You may keep the state alive, yes, but you kill something in its people. Trust, courage, the habit of truth. Real success is self-rule. Can your prince sleep without guards, without lies, without fear? If not, what has he really won?
Sleep. If a man wants to sleep soundly, he should remain a private citizen and let others decide his fate. That is easy. But to govern is to be awake while others dream. You ask what he has won? He has won security for his people. He has won glory that outlasts his bones. A good life isn't a quiet conscience in a ruined city. It is the strength to bear the sin necessary to keep the wolves at bay. I would rather be feared and safe than loved and conquered.
You call it sin necessary. I call it the failure of imagination and courage. Fear can silence a city, but it cannot heal it. The wolves you dread are often bred by the ruler's own violence, his own lies. Yes, defend the people, but do it without poisoning their soul. A successful life leaves behind not only order but fearless citizens. What is glory worth if it teaches everyone to live by dread?